A month ago, the Lord told me to throw out my $30,000 Pokemon collection because it was demonic.
Is that Sobble?
So I prayed and I'm like, Lord, like, what's going on? And he said, research it.
God said, do your own research. I can't believe he got a direct line to God and God said, look it up,
Fart.
Lord.
The show is full of witches and demons and even a gender-bending character.
Look, back the f off, James, alright? Start talking about James, the Pokemon fandom will obliterate you. Hello, lovely people, my name is Emma. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. If you are new, this is not a Pokemon-themed channel. Yet. This is essentially the second part of a two-part series. I blind reacted to an infamous preacher calling out Pokemon as demonic in one of his home VHS tapes, and then we did a deep dive on the lore of his narcotics addiction and how he stole from the church and ran it like a cult. It was a whole thing, and it was so much of a thing that we didn't get to talk about Pokemon as much as I would have liked. So I decided it would be fun to do a separate video on modern Pokemon hatred, on modern folks calling Pokemon demonic, because it is still happening as recently as this year, 2024. People still be calling all the fun things that young people do demonic. And I think that's really fun. You don't have to watch that video first, but if you enjoy this one, maybe check it out afterwards. It's pretty good, it's pretty fun, it's pretty informative and cool. I have brought support for this video. Last time we had classic Fat Pikachu. I have brought in Magikarp to help us out in this episode. Let's friggin' crack right in. I have this video ready to go. It's 5 months old. It's from a channel called Little Light Studios. The title is long. Former Witchdoctor recognizes Pokemon as demons. Netflix Pokemon concierge. Pokemon Go. LED light. This channel has more subscribers than me. Maybe we could do something about that? The opening to this video is a blast. Let's just dive in and enjoy. Dive in. If it wasn't clear, I love Pokemon. I live and breathe Pokemon. When I say I got that dog in me, I'm talking about Yamper.
Warning. This episode may contain content that is not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
LED is light exposing darkness. I love Pokemon Concierge, it's so cute.
Supposed to start working here today. My name is Haru.
Netflix jumps in on the Pokemon hype. The Pokemon hype? Of what? The 1990s? What do you mean the Pokemon hype? It's not a movie. It's an animated series. How you could get that so wrong, I don't know. It's a really nicely made video. Immediately some of the information it shows is wrong. Maybe you're putting effort into the wrong places? So that doesn't bode well.
Welcome to the play.
Even said a Netflix series on the screen. Bruh. It's not a move. I'm going to scream. But also, look at Rattata. Can't believe it still says movie.
Pokemon means pocket monster, or having pocket-sized demons as friends. There seems to be more than one of these.
Who said that? No, pocket monster doesn't equal demon. You've decided that. Oh, look, they've got like a DVD about the evils of anime. That sounds fun.
These types of games that have a theme of calling up or communicating with demons. The show is full of witches and demons and even a gender-bending character.
People with flash and passion.
To give all Poké.
Look, back the fuck off, James, alright? I fucking love James. Start talking shit about James, the Pokemon fandom will obliterate you. I love that they had to throw that in, just as like an extra evangelical thing, like gender nonconformity is another hot button topic right now, so let's just throw in the Pokemon jokes about gender, just to really reinforce that it's evil. James deserves better. That's all I'm saying.
Come on, pretty faces.
To extend our art to outer spaces.
Jesse.
James.
Jesse.
James.
Listen to me, kid. When you get involved with the opposite sex, you're only asking for trouble.
Yes, and that's the kind of trouble I stay out of. I am a...
Are they using that? They're just using all these amazing clips of Jesse and James. For real, all this is doing is showing how fucking iconic they are. Best duo in animated history. Let's be honest. This has nothing to do with the demonicness of Pokemon or the show featuring demons and witches. They're spending, like, so much time on James's gender presentation. That's hilarious, my dude.
Pokemon,
Gotta catch 'em all in me. Gotta know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend in a world we must. Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you there. I mean, see you there. I mean, hear you there. See, I didn't hear you there. I was just listening to some absolutely banging tunes with my Raycon earbuds. You kids heard of Raycon? You're on YouTube. Of course you have. You already know it's the same audio quality you expect from the big guys, but at half the price. But if you haven't yet pulled the trigger on buying your own pair, or if you're in the market for another, they just launched the upgraded model of their best-selling everyday earbuds. The absolute best thing about them, no doubt, in my opinion, they now have multi-point connectivity, which means you can connect 2 devices at a time. Plus, a nice comfy ergonomic design and active noise cancellation. That's pretty nice. So I got myself a pair of Raycons and I was so pleased at the colour selection. Why are earbuds so utilitarian most of the time? It's basically like black, chunky, or children's size Spider-Man earphones. And I don't know why they don't make those in adult sizes. My Raycons are the cutest freaking colour. Not just the case. Look at my sweet little earbuds. Have you ever seen earbuds this colour before? Because I have not. I'm an aesthetics girl. I want them to be good and look pretty. Is that so much to ask? No, says Raycon. Speaking of aesthetics, even my protective case is super cute. Look at the aesthetics of this. Jasper has been learning to juggle lately, and he's kind of a danger to anything nearby, so this is handy to have. The new everyday earbuds are also dust-proof and built to withstand the occasional left in the pocket, went through the washing machine experience, which is something that I've certainly never done before. Did you know Raycon everyday earbuds are Siri and Alexa compatible? I hope I didn't just activate anything in your home. I'm sorry if I did. The charging case offers up to 32 hours of battery. There is seriously so much to love about these earbuds. They're so good, and Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/Emma Thorne to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Plus, free shipping. Thanks so much for listening and for checking out Raycon. It really helps me and this channel out. Back to the demons.
Flaming Moltres!
I think that costume came right out of his closet.
When Pokemon Go was released
That wasn't it. That was Moltres. That wasn't like a woman cost. All right, let's carry on.
in the US and became an instant hit. Fans were running all over the towns and cities trying to collect as many pocket demons as possible. This anime nudged its fandom one step closer to inviting demons into their physical space. Not something you ever want to do if you are a true believer in the spiritual realm.
Guess it's a good thing I'm not a true believer in the spiritual realm then. On this channel, through my time studying, watching weird shit by evangelicals, I have done and said and dressed in so many ways as to invite demons, allegedly. Shit's still not happened. I'm having a fucking great time. Like, if I have somehow invited demons into my life through what I say and do, like, if anything, they're helping me out. In the books, but I don't know why some of this is narrated and some of this isn't. It's like, if you have any visually impaired viewers, they're just kind of screwed, because half of it is just, like, suspicious music. You're like, what the fuck is going on now? In the book Spirit of the Rainforest by missionary Mark Andrew Ritchie, a former witch doctor recognizes Pokémon as demons. Alright, let's look this shit up. Spirit of the Rainforest, Mark Andrew Ritchie. He's a veteran of the financial industry. My Trading Bible, the book of that name, is about financial trading. How interesting. I thought maybe that was 2 different people with the same name, but no. The Yanomamo of the Amazon, endangered children of nature or indigenous warmongers on the verge of destroying themselves. Now for the first time, a powerful Yanomamo shaman speaks for his people. 2 top reviews from the UK. One is 5-star. One says, while Jungleman's accounts certainly make a strong case for the reality of the spiritual realm as taught in Judeo-Christian circles, this book is not preachy or proselytizing tool? And then there's a 1-star review which calls it evangelical missionary propaganda. One day while working with the Yanomamo, Ritchie receives a Pokémon book in the mail. When he showed the former witch doctor, who converted to Christianity, he says, "Oh, I know this one. This is a nasty little demon." Which one? Which one? It's gotta be Jigglypuff, right? Obviously not you, Magikarp. It bites, scratches, screeches, and whatnot. What does this have to do with Pokemon Concierge? I looked at the page, and on the list of attributes, the book said bites, scratches, screeches, and claws. Maybe this guy was just a Pokemon fan. What do you think about that? The former Witchdoctor doesn't read English. He simply recognized the Pokemon as demons he used to worship, including its attributes. I wonder if it says that in the book, that this former Witchdoctor admitted to following demons. I guess if you converted to this kind of Christianity, you might well believe that you used to worship demons. In the way that if you do anything sort of vaguely spiritual related to nature or anything, it's like pagan heresy, you know? Here's the thing, right? Pokemon is a product of Japan, which has a rich spiritual history involving spirits. In the Shinto religion, there are kami, which are spirits, deities, natural phenomena, and they cover like a vast range of different types of entities, right? Same as in lots of other religions. Similarly, there's lots of Japanese folklore involving yokai, which again is kind of a broad range of like spiritual entities. So lots of Japanese media and Japanese fiction uses that folklore and spirituality to base its fiction on. The thing is that it's fiction. So like there's probably some Pokemon based on spiritual creatures from Japanese folklore and Shinto. That doesn't mean that somehow having a trading card with that image on it makes demons real. I touched on this in the last video, but do they not realize there is literally a game series called Yokai Watch that is literally specifically about yokai? Why does Pokemon get all the attention for being demonic? The Pokemon Concierge thing had no relevance. I guess it was just a thing to be like, your children might be watching this. Fear, fear, fear. Which is kind of a cool tactic. Do you guys know Kerr? She's the author of the book Revealing Heaven. She has a lot of really strange but really fun, to be honest, ideas about heaven and the spiritual realm. She's come up on a couple of like talk shows and stuff, Christian evangelical talk shows that I've mentioned. I'll just show you this Q&A page from her website, The Revelation Zone with Kerr, because it's very funny. Basically, Kerr has seen heaven. And seen lots of miraculous things, and therefore knows where we're going and all the awesome things about it, and she has taken it upon herself to inform us all of it. Here's a question from Trey, age 6. Is there an art easel and a T-Rex in heaven? Trey, aww. Yes to both questions. Since I saw art galleries there. There's art galleries in heaven. I'm certain they would have easels to paint on. Also, there are representations of all animal life that God originally created. So dinosaurs, including the T-Rex, can be seen in the park area of heaven. They are so tame that you can actually ride on them. She got like a first-hand walking tour of heaven. And I'm not gonna lie, the way she describes heaven makes it sound like a theme park. It's got all these separate areas. There's like the animal petting area where you can ride a T-Rex. There's like the TV studio area where her peers continue doing their work into the afterlife. That's a real thing that we looked at on this channel that they believe. There is now need for nighttime in heaven. Heaven is always adding new things for us to do. People are always going to heaven, so mansions are continually being added. It is such a, like, aggressively capitalist USA version of heaven. Everybody lives in a mansion. So that's Kerr. Cat, bless her, has some wacky dreams, and she has interpreted those as signs from God. She's done a tour of heaven, and she also thinks lots of things are demonic. So here is her speaking about Pokemon and Warcraft being demonic from when Pokemon Go kicked off and became popular.
Whatever you watch or allow to be watched in your presence, you're approving of it. That's what God says. You approve of it. If you receive it, it's going to come with you. And it may not make you go to hell, but it will mess up your life like you're living there. So if you've had a lot of things come in your life and you don't know why, and you've been into Harry Potter, if you've been into Pokemon, I'm just telling you what heaven's saying. Those pets do one thing: they war. They were made and created to release violence, spirits of violence.
Actually, it's kind of an interesting statement, that, because it's humans that have taken them and used them for violence. It's not the creature's fault. There's kind of an alternative discussion to be had there, right? It's not your fault. I would never train my guys to fight, especially not Magikarp. This goes back to exactly what I said a second ago, which is like, she's saying, if all these terrible things have been happening in your life, and you like Harry Potter, Pokemon, but terrible things haven't been happening in my life, It's been good things, whilst I enjoy playing my silly Pokemon games and watching Pokemon Concierge. Like, these kind of people sort of trust that you will have issues in your life because that's just what being a human is like, unfortunately. Sometimes things go wrong, sometimes you have a hard day, and just using that inevitability of the human existence to say, and here's all the things I want to blame for, here's all the stuff I don't like that I'm placing that blame on. It's very sneaky. I don't know if she's sneaky or delusional. With Kat, I lean more towards delusional. It's not for me to say, but that would be my guess.
And their nature and their origin comes from Japan. And the makers of them have them evolve. They haven't got to their final evolving will be demonic beings that the kids won't mind having with them. Because they've been trained from the time these little things, these cute little pets appeared. It will bring strife in your home. It will bring a lot more than strife. It will bring rebellion in your children. It will bring...
Oh no, imagine if your children grow up to be independent. Imagine if your children started questioning your insane beliefs. Like, playing Pokemon on your Game Boy is going to invite actual demons into your home. Imagine if you start questioning the reality of what they're teaching you. All of these kind of evangelical teaching things, whenever it comes to children, is basically like, isolate them as much as possible. I hate that. That's why I think kids should be raised secular.
Bring eventually hate into your children. And I've seen kids beat their parents and scream at them. I was on a plane one time and the father had to sit on this 5-year-old. And he was screaming and swearing and trying to hit his parents, and the father was laughing.
Well, that's probably because of Pokemon, isn't it? It couldn't be the parenting, even though the father was sitting on the child and laughing. He probably saw James in a dress in the animated series, and that's why he's so rebellious. What the fuck are you saying? She's mad. I'm sorry. Bless her. She's mad.
As the mother gave the Pokemon color books to the other two children behind her. And the Holy Spirit said, that's what you get in your home when you get Pokemon.
So Kat's on this plane, watching this family, like, having her judgmental inner dialogue. A plane, by the way, very stressful situation for a 5-year-old. I don't know how accurate this story is, if this story even happened at all. But if it is real, and there was a 5-year-old freaking out on a plane, kids freak out on planes. I've not been on many planes in my life, but I've seen kids freak out on them when I have been on them. Like, it's not that weird. And the other children were being given colouring books. But they were Pokemon colouring books. But wait, isn't Kat saying that the one child who didn't get the Pokemon colouring book is the one who's being all rebellious? Maybe Pokemon is the cure. Did you ever think about that? Dancing in the deepest oceans. The cure.
Those are spirits that represent war, they represent violence, and they're put into the children when they're little, and they can control them.
I don't know who's attempting this, but parents, you should not be putting Pokemon into your children. Unless it's like Pokemon spaghetti shapes, or something like that.
It is not a fantasy. It is one of the greatest deceptions of the enemy, but he always covers things up so they look wonderful. I mean, he wants it to look friendly. He's not going to tell you this is evil, it's for me, and if you get it, you're going to be affected by me. He never does that. It's like when he puts thoughts in your mind and you think it's you and it's the enemy talking to you. Take every thought captive that exalts itself above the knowledge of God.
Does Pokemon exalt itself above the knowledge of God? Or is it like, here's a game we created to make money? Like, just watch like 1 second of the Pokemon movies or the Pokemon TV series. It's just endless moral lessons. It's about love and friendship and doing good things. I guess that's all just Satan's deception or whatever, but it kind of seems like his message is actually a good one. If it's secretly disguising demons, then demons are probably pretty nice, right? So that's Cat. There's like 5 more minutes of this, but I can only deal with so much cat care before I start to lose my mind. Oh, I know what I want to find. There was a guy, when I was looking this up last time, I found a guy, I think it might be this guy, who had like a $30,000 Pokemon card collection that he got rid of because God told him to. Throwing out my Emmanuel, it is him. Throwing out my $30,000 Pokemon collection, it was demonic. At the very least, like, sell it. You could give that money to your church or something if you wanted to. Like, it just seems like a waste, right? I guess he doesn't want other people to have it if it's demonic.
A month ago, the Lord told me to throw out my $30,000 Pokemon collection because it was demonic. I didn't understand it.
How can you bear? How can you bear to let plushies go in a bin bag like that? That hurts my soul. I can't watch that. Is that Sobble? I had Sobble as my partner Pokemon because I found the fact that it just cries all the time so relatable. That is heartbreaking. Like, I'm sure for a lot of people, seeing all the cards get dumped in the bin bag is the most horrifying thing because, like, some of them are worth so much money and some of them are rare, and, like, when you love your cards, you love your cards, right? I got some Magic the Gathering cards that it would kill me to see go in the bin like that. But for me, it's plushies. I can't, there's no way. If I ever tragically have to downscale and I have to get rid of some plushies, I always give them to charity. I'm not putting that shit in the bin. They have souls.
But I obeyed. I thought maybe this is like a personal conviction thing. You know, it's meant for me and not for others. I couldn't hide the fact though.
I understand on like a scholarly level, on like an education-based level, from everything I've read and on people who have been raised in certain like fringe religious groups, right? I understand how you interpret stuff. I've mentioned before Jeanette McCurdy's book where she talks about thinking that her OCD was the Holy Spirit talking to her. Like, I understand how you come to those beliefs, but it's really hard for me to empathize with that. It's really hard for me to watch a video of an adult man saying, like, I heard a voice in my head telling me that it was important that I got rid of my trading cards, so I did it. That's really hard for me to understand on like an emotional level because I didn't have that upbringing. I do, like, technically I get that he was obviously raised a certain way and taught by people like Kerr that this shit is demonic and that God speaks to you and you have to listen to the Holy Spirit, the voice. But like on a practical level, I can't ever imagine doing that. Like if I ever felt really compelled by like something other than me, even if it wasn't like directly words I was hearing, if I felt like something that wasn't me was saying you really need to do this, I would be like, can I see a psychiatrist? Just because I was raised so differently. And that's no shade to this guy because it's not his fault. I just think it's so interesting, and I guess they probably feel sorry for me the same way I feel sorry for them because they think that they've got the line to God and I was raised wrong, so I'm skeptical of that kind of thing. It's very strange. Also, I've never had that kind of experience. Like, I have collected trading cards, I've played Pokemon, and I have never ever been compelled. I've got a fucking Ouija board here, so like, surely that's higher up the list than Pokemon, and I've never felt any kind of compulsion to protect my soul from those things. I just find it really hard to get my head around.
Though that it bothered me because I didn't understand why I had to give this up. So I prayed and I'm like, Lord, like, what's going on? And he said, research it. Research Pokemon. In my 20s,
God said, do your own research. God's a Facebook conspiracy theorist. Do your own research. I'd link you to an article, but the government keeps deleting them. I can't believe he got a direct line to God and God said, look it up, shitlord. Is that not a red flag?
23 years of being a fan of Pokemon, I never thought to actually find out what inspired it. And inspiration is important because 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16 to 17, it says all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. So when
yeah, there definitely is no ulterior motive for saying that in Timothy. I am 100% correct because I've been inspired by God. Citation needed.
I learned that Pokemon was inspired by Japan's oldest religion, Shintoism, demons and false gods, mythology.
It's just Shinto, right? Correct me in the comments. I'm pretty sure it's just Shinto.
And a mixture of New Age and other religions like Hinduism and Taoism, on top of many other like strange.
Fortunately, having made videos on this channel for a while, I know from previous research that Hinduism, while we don't know its exact origins, is at least 5,000 years old. That's older than Christianity, my son. That's not a New Age teaching.
Supernatural legends and stories. Like, I was shocked, y'all. I kept searching though, and the Lord revealed crime and occults and mental illnesses and lawsuits and a whole bunch of other stuff.
It's not my place to make any kind of assumptions. And I'm not making any assumptions. And I'm only saying this because he brought it up. It is a little bit rich for someone who did something really drastic, $30,000 drastic, not at all knowing the reason, claiming that God inspired him to do it, talking about video games causing mental health problems. Not making any suggestions about his character or his health. It's just a bit fucking rich, isn't it? It's just a bit silly, isn't it?
Connected to Pokemon. I was shocked, bro, and I told the Lord, why has no one made a video in depth about this? He told me, I want you to do it, because I look...
I can't help but imagine him, like, at his bedside on his knees praying, and he's like, God, why has nobody made a YouTube video about this? Should I do it? Will it go viral? Why has nobody made a YouTube video in depth about this? Brother, they have. They fucking have. Where did you do your research? People have talked about this. It was dumb then, it's dumb now. That's why it hasn't become mainstream thought. Because it's crazy. So yeah, 2024 turns out fringe evangelicals, almost cult-like in their beliefs, relying totally on intuition and conversations with God. They're giving warnings to parents about TV shows and video games. They're trashing $30,000 of their own beloved collections, including plushies. The fact that it was Sobble, and Sobble is the one that cries, is so heartbreaking you don't even understand. I wish I could rescue that Sobble. Basically, culty fringe evangelism is not dead, especially in the United States. And I'm a little bit concerned about that, because this is all advocating for raising children a specific way. Raising them to fear everything outside of their church and their instruction. I think that's a bad way to raise kids. I'm not a parent. On most things when it comes to raising kids, I will not have an opinion. I'll always feel strongly about this. I think telling your children that everything fun is demonic, and that anything they do can hurt them spiritually, especially when they're kids and they're like designed to make mistakes because that's how you learn as you grow up. You don't know that something is wrong until you've done it, until you've made the mistake. I just think that's so fucking harmful. And there are plenty of testimonies of people explaining exactly that from their own childhoods. What a weird ride. Remember, if you haven't seen my other recent Pokemon video, do check it out. It's super interesting, I think. Emmanuel thought it was weird that there was no detailed YouTube video about Pokemon being demonic. I think it's crazy that this Pokemon preacher being addicted to narcotics and stealing from church funds to fund that addiction whilst shunning people and kicking them out of his church for being dissenters or taking too much of the limelight from him. I think the fact that that's not mainstream news is crazy, so do go and check that video out. God told me to make that video. I was like, God, why is there no video about this? And he told me to make it, so I did. Remember to check out Raycon using the link down below. Remember, if you do want to support this channel, you can become a channel member right here, right now. Right here, right now, right here. Right now. Remember a bit of Fatboy Slim? You get comment priority and some goofy little emotes, including me and a moustache, plus you get a cute little ducky next to your name. It's freaking adorable. Check out the description for links to things like my Ko-fi, my Patreon, which is probably the best way to support this channel. With that, I must give a big old thank you and a shout out to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon, especially Conla. God damn it, Conla. Most importantly, have yourselves a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.